Hi everyone, it's Dom from theMSguide, and today we're going to talk about something pretty cool and scary and concerning for most people, and that's disclosure. I met Susie a little while ago, and then she's fairly newly diagnosed, and she put something on LinkedIn which completely blew my mind and actually caused me to write a piece. So Susie has agreed to come on the channel because I tend to pounce on people who say cool things like that, and we're going to start that interview now. Hey, Susie, how you doing?
Hi, Dominic. Good to see you. You all right?
Yeah, I'm good. And you? How are you?
Not too bad. It's been a busy week, but I'm good. Yeah.
Yeah. So if you could tell us a bit about yourself, that would be really cool.
Sure. Yeah. So I'm Susie. I'm newly turned 40, and basically I was diagnosed with MS back in March. So really news for me. And I think it's safe to say it got off to a fairly punchy start. So I had no warning whatsoever, and it basically just arrived and put me in hospital. So 2021 has been a full year for me health-wise.
Susie, what really got me was you've essentially known about your MS for 7 months. It floored you. It put you in hospital. It happened during the middle of a pandemic. I think it's fair to say, without being too fruity in the language, it's been a bit of a shit show. And yeah, but I remember talking to you about it. And, when I first spoke to you, you were not keen that anybody knew. You didn't know. And disclosure is becoming a thing that it seems to be being talked about a lot on Shift MS, on other places. And it's an understandable concern. I'm looking at the other end of the telescope. 28 years, if people know I've got MS, end of, yeah, move on. But I mean, your clients finding out that you have MS. I imagine some of your wider friends finding out that you have MS. I mean, it's, what made you decide to disclose?
Yeah, I mean, I thought about it quite a lot. I mean, obviously, once this happens, you think about very little else for several months at a time, right? And kind of quite obsessive about it. But the more I thought about it, the more I just thought, look, I've lived a pretty sort of full life. I've done a lot of cool things in my time. And the more I thought about MS, the more I was like, all I can see this doing is just narrowing things, hiding away, keeping it a secret, having to remember who I've told and who knows and who doesn't, and who did I tell last week. And, that was all just too much for me to really think about, because I'm quite an open book, really. So it felt like a lot of hard work to kind of keep up that premise. And also, I mean, we'd had COVID, as you say, and I'd been kind of confined to my flat for the best part of 2 years on and off, with different lockdowns and obviously the MS kicking off and having to be really careful about that and everything. And I just thought, I cannot stand the idea of any more kind of curtailment of normal life and having to pretend that life is completely normal, when clearly at the moment it's still completely and utterly bonkers. And so I just thought, look, the world has changed, and I can't really just pretend that it's business as usual for me personally, because it isn't the same. It's completely different now. And I don't know, I felt suddenly as if I did want to just kind of share it, because ultimately it's nothing to be ashamed of. It's not like I asked for it or anything.
Yeah, or it wasn't that your reckless behavior caused it. Or I think one of the funny things as well, you're talking about the pandemic, and long before you knew about your MS and everything, there was a lot of people talking. And I remember a year and a half ago, with people with MS going, yeah, welcome to our world. You put this thing up on LinkedIn. You put up a video on LinkedIn going, my name's Susie. I run a company. I talk about, or I help you with your message.
I knew from sort of previous experience that, doing videos was probably the best way to kind of get engagement online. And I think, for me personally, it's like people get ill all the time. So that's not in and of itself particularly interesting. But what makes it interesting is mixing the kind of personal and the professional, because, really talking about health issues on a professional platform is a taboo subject. You don't really hear that very often. According to LinkedIn, everything's perfect, everybody's making loads of money, everybody's amazing, and you don't generally get people kind of sharing sort of vulnerabilities, and I knew that kind of tension would be kind of interesting. But I mean, on top of that, I just knew that my network were going to be largely quite supportive of me. I've worked really hard at kind of building those relationships and stuff, and they're generally fairly decent people. So I knew I wasn't going to get tons of negativity.
You say that, but what were your fears initially? When you're thinking, should I, shouldn't I? What were the fears?
Yeah, so I mean, I think in the early days, you do quite a lot of catastrophizing. So you kind of think, I'm going to do this, and he's going to think that, and she's going to think that, and then they're never going to want to work with me again, and then everybody's going to think I'm an attention seeker, and la da 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 da. And you just reach a point, you're like, there's 8 billion people in the world, and actually, I'm not that important. Like, I am not the center of everybody's universe. Like, generally, I'm sure you'll agree, like, everybody has a ton of their own stuff to deal with right now. And so I know this is going to be a talking point right now, but it won't be next week, because there'll be something else, or they'll have problems with their own children or whatever. Actually, it's a big deal to us, but it's just not that big a deal to other people. They've got their own stuff to worry about. I mean, maybe I'll regret it. Maybe I'll be wrong and it'll come back and bite me. But
Susie, this brings me on to my next question. To date, I know it's only been a week, but what's the reaction been like?
Today, the reaction's actually been amazing. So I obviously got the immediate feedback of just lots and lots of very positive messages from people in my network, and just loads of really lovely kind of supportive messages and so on, which was great. I'll be honest, after a tough couple of years, it was a nice thing to read. But not only that, but I've had several different inquiries on LinkedIn from sort of MS charities, new contacts. I've got new business calls next week. Like, I mean, from a selfish perspective, it's done me no harm whatsoever. Right. You kind of think very much of the negatives in these situations, but actually there are some clear positives as well, where people have your back, and they're not just out to get you. There are a lot of people who are actually really supportive and on your side, and you can't please everybody all of the time. And for me, going back to the initial point, it's a very binary choice where you either tell everyone or you tell no one. I'm a bit like that anyway, because the idea of just telling a select number of people, and then me as a communications expert not being in control of my own story, was not an option to me. You could have people saying some crazy stuff like, oh, Susie's got motor neurone disease, or just that kind of stuff. And I was desperate to avoid that. So I just thought, right, I'll just go all out and I'll just tell everybody. And then everybody knows in the way that I want. And actually, it's been really helpful in terms of like the conversations that I've subsequently have, because it's been like that elephant in the room is gone. So, I was talking to a prospect the other day.
The elephant in the room in your head, in mine, and everybody with MS, we're thinking, oh God, what about this? Like you say, their kid just got knocked out of school for a week with COVID. The car's got a flat tire. It's not in there, but we think, oh my God, all they're going to care about is RMS.
Yeah, no, you're totally. But equally, it just means that when you do have to have those conversations, you're starting from a really sensible kind of footing, where they've kind of got a bit of a background, they know a bit of your situation, and you've kind of set the terms of that conversation to take place. And I just feel a lot more comfortable. The times when I've actually told people face to face has been harder, because you don't know how they're going to react. And then it's caught me out a couple of times where I've thought certain people would be great about it, and actually they've been pretty hopeless. And so this just seems to tick quite a lot of boxes for me. And if they're not taking it well, I don't know, and I just hide.
Well, you know who your friends are. You find out who your friends are. The people that some, like you say, they're a bit like, oh, I thought you'd be cooler, but and you also think, do you know what? I've got to make my way in life, pay my bills, whatever. I run a small business. It's wonderful that you think that, but I haven't got time to engage. If you have an issue, I have to move on for it. And, but I saw you and I thought, here is somebody who has just said, here's the narrative. I own it. None of this can happen to me.
For me, it already feels like a weight off my shoulders, because ultimately, like, MS is an uninvited guest, right? I didn't ask it to be part of my life, but it's here now. But I don't want it to be my whole life. And it's like, it just feels like, okay, that's done. And we've talked about it, and it kind of like takes the power out of it. Like, if you keep everything a secret, like, oh, this thing is really powerful and everybody's going to think, it's so restrictive. But now that I've kind of said, right, I've got it and it's out there, it's like, right, now what do we think about? And I'm on to something else, and I'm doing my work, and life goes on at the moment.
You motivated me to write that blog the other day that went up on Professor Giovanni posted it, but it's just, because it made me realize that what you'd done that I hadn't done was you had essentially said, I'm not going to be scared of it and I'm going to own it, because
I mean, I am still scared of it.
Oh, yeah,
I can't go too far, but
hey, we're going through life with a loaded gun to our heads is how I think of it. It's just I'm more used to the gun being there these days, but for you, it's still a pretty new thing, seeing a gun stuck to your head every day. But we've spoken about the way it's turned out for you so far. How would you tell people, how would you say that they may go about it? And what are the things that they need to be aware of and think about for themselves?
Yeah, I mean, it's a really personal thing, so it's hard to kind of tell other people what they should do. But I guess the one thing that I would sort of share is the things that I've found quite difficult about it. So it's been really hard, as I'm sure we've all found, kind of conveying the complexity of the thing without kind of scaremongering. So, like, finding that balance. You've got to keep it simple. People don't want a lecture, so you've got to kind of keep it quite straightforward. Yeah. So I found that generally the responses that I've had have been sort of like, oh my God, you're desperately ill and unwell, or oh my God, I'm so glad you're better again now. And I don't think it's the place to get into a kind of intricate discussion about, oh no, well actually, I think if people want to go and find out about it, then they have to kind of work that out themselves. I'm not going to do that on LinkedIn. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So the other thing that I would say to people is it was actually more emotional than I anticipated. So, the videos came out at a time when I was actually personally quite busy anyway. And I guess I wasn't really prepared for the amount of really lovely stuff that people said, but it's another job that you then have to do, whereby you're getting feedback in comments, messages, you have to respond to all of that, and it's a really sensitive thing. So I suppose I would advise people to be prepared. So for example, one of my old work connections shared how his daughter was like paralyzed by MS at age 13. And that's on my feed now. And I don't mind. I'm really happy he shared, but you have to be prepared that you will be associated with that, and you can't really kind of control that. So yeah, just my advice would be prepared for that and kind of go easy on yourself.
Sure. And also, I think, remember that you may look at it and go, oh God, that stuck to me. The amount of people that won't see it is far greater than the ones that will. And then out of the ones that see it, the ones that infer something bad, again, far smaller. So, but it's keeping that all in your head, I think.
People don't care that much. They're not spending their whole day looking at my LinkedIn feed and analysing everybody's comments, and they'll have a look at it, but then they move on because they've got their own lives.
Well, they're busy like you and me and stuff. So I take this point now to say, if anybody wants to ask anything, pop it in the comments. Ask a question. I can't promise you I manage to answer most of them, but I may go and pester Susie again on your behalf if it's something. But we'll try and do it. But if you want to ask anything, fire it in the comments. Susie, when would it be wrong to disclose? When do you think now? Because you're a businesswoman. When do you think somebody shouldn't say anything at work? In a commercial, sort of context.
So, I mean, I'm self-employed now, but obviously, in the past, I've worked for different companies, and some of the people that I've worked with have been fairly unpleasant individuals. And I think if you're working in one of those companies that is a fairly sort of toxic environment where you kind of don't know who you can trust, and there's a lot of like politics and backstabbing and stuff like that, there's no point pretending that those people are your friends or have your best intentions at heart, because they don't. And so I think if you're working in an environment that is like that is a bit kind of cutthroat and nasty, I personally wouldn't, because in my experience, I just don't think they would deal with it, as you would hope.
Somebody said in the comments on another thing, they went, yeah, but sometimes you can't hide it. I'm fortunate that I can broadly hide it. Right now, you're not in hospital. You put pictures of you on a paddleboard, but we can pretend, people like you and me, you wouldn't know to meet us that it's there. Some people,
though, you're thinking, right. It's a luxury that I currently have, and I'm not an expert in disability, or I know it's a protected characteristic and so on. So that's not a conversation that I'm really qualified to have. I guess people are protected to some extent by law, but
it's one of the 3 listed disabilities. So I would say, if you think it's all going pear-shaped and you haven't told them, get it out there, make it known, speak to HR, get it written down, because then if you are going to get a hard time for it, and I can't say that people won't be unpleasant, like you say, but you've covered yourself off, because they sure as heck shouldn't be doing that. Yeah, fine, don't tell them, but if it's going to be an issue, tell them and get it on the record. There's an awful lot of comment right now, again, about dating. How do you do this dating? Tell me, Susie, enlighten me.
Yeah, so obviously I am single, and I'm very much hoping that having a chronic illness is going to bring all the boys to the yard.
You'll be beating them off with a stick, I'm sure.
Oh God, yeah. God, it's going to be a nightmare. Dating is not really a priority for me anyway. I've got quite a lot of other stuff that I need to kind of prioritize. So it's not something I'm stressing about right now.
I know, but you're wise. If your friend came to you and they were in your position and they said, should I tell somebody about my MS early? Should I never mention it? At what stage would I mention it? Do you have any views on this?
Yeah, if I met somebody, I would obviously have to tell them early, because as I said, I'm an open book, and there's no way I could keep something like that a secret. As haven't even managed to do that in my professional network, let alone my dating life. So I wouldn't be able to keep it a secret, and I think that would be kind of just really hard work and a bit odd, because they'd have to deal with it eventually. So exactly. I would have to tell somebody. But
okay, I have a view. It's just my view. Back to your point, though. I have MS. I am not MS. So therefore, I wouldn't write it on a profile. But like you, I would tell somebody fairly upfront. You're not deceiving somebody, because you're putting you out there with a dating profile. And
yeah, I had a foray of internet dating for about a week, and I found it absolutely soul destroying, and I've promptly left it. So again, it's not something I need to worry about right now. Right. But I'll just park the whole thing.
It wasn't soul destroying because of your MS, or was it?
No, it's just generally.
You mean the quality of the candidates wasn't up to par?
I don't know. I'm the common factor, so perhaps
it's one of those things,
Yeah, it's just another one of those annoying things that is just solely down to the individual, isn't it? I'm a very different type of person to a lot of people, and
so no, I appreciate your candor. So it's we're all different. We're talking about it, but when neither of us, I hope nobody is thinking that we're saying this is the answer. It's just that you put it up on LinkedIn, and I went, wow, a video, 7 months. Holy moly, I need to get you on the channel, so it's okay. So look, that's really cool. I appreciate you giving your time. I know you're super busy, and I had to badger you to do this, to fit it into your busy day. So Susie, thank you so much.
Okay, pleasure.
Take care.